A very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to WION Sport. I'm Chaiti Narula right here from the Mahalakshmi Racecourse at the Royal Western India Turf Club in Mumbai. Today is the day which is the biggest race of the Indian horse racing calendar. We're here at the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1, run over 2,400 meters by 4-year-old colts and fillies. This is the biggest classic of the Indian horse racing calendar. It gets preceded by the Indian 1,000 guineas run over a distance of a mile, the Indian 2,000 guineas again run over a distance of the mile, and then comes the Ladies Derby, which is the Indian Oaks, and then finally the grand finale comes here, which is the Indian Derby. Just for the benefit of our viewers, this is the biggest race and has attendance of over 30,000 people coming in from all over the country, and the stands packed to the rafters each year. Before we take you through all the action and all the fashion and the frolic and the equestrian supremacy, let's take a look at the traditional breakfast with champions. So a derby in any country is really the biggest race of that country's horse racing calendar. Now, because it's the biggest race as well, every country has its own set of traditions around the derby. As far as the Indian Derby is concerned, we start off on a Thursday morning with a breakfast with champions and wind up Thursday evening with something which is called as a post position draw. Now, if you may ask me what a post position draw is, usually a cold-hearted computer decides the horse's barrier draw. In the post position draw, the trainers and the horses' connections come and physically pick their own barrier draw. Just to take a look at how this whole post position draw event, which is a traditional event before the derby, takes place, we've got you this package. Take a look.
It's the race that half the city or a significant portion of the city treads to once in the year without knowing what the race is about. And this Sunday, as some of you know, is extra special, being the 75th running of the Indian Derby, making it the Platinum Jubilee of the race.
Here's a magnificent trophy covered by the jewel. This jewel, which will also be unveiled along with the trophy, will be presented to the winner of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby. Please put your hands together for this glorious trophy which many of us, many of you are vying to have on your mantelpieces. And that is the jewel that will go on the winning horse.
Well, that was the traditional post position draw and the traditional breakfast with champions before a derby. So what really is a derby? A derby is the biggest race of any country's horse racing calendar, run over a distance of 2,400 meters by 4-year-old colts and fillies. Where did the word derby really originate from? We're going to track down the origins of a derby. This has come from the 12th Earl of Derby when he invited Lord Bunbury over dinner. It's a very interesting story passed on from generations to generation in horse racing. Take a look at the origins of a derby. The Derby is the biggest race of any country. The Indian Derby Grade 1 is the second leg of a Triple Crown in India, which is preceded by the Indian 2,000 guineas Grade 1 and followed by the Indian Saint Leisure Grade 1. The Derby of any country is rightfully anointed as the blue ribbon of the turf in racing. So exactly why is the biggest race of any horse racing calendar called a derby? Interestingly, the derby's origin dates back to the late 18th century. In the year 1780, it was Lord Bunbury and the 12th Earl of Derby who wanted to name a 1-mile race of 3-year-old colts and fillies but didn't know what to call it. It was the 12th Earl of Derby who invited Lord Bunbury to his home for a dinner and decided to toss a coin to decide what to call the biggest race of the country back then. The 12th Earl of the Derby won the toss, and thus the race was named Derby Stakes. Quite ironically, the first Derby was won by Lord Bunbury's horse Diamond, but the toss ensured that the race will forever be Lord Derby's namesake. 4 years later, in the year 1784, the Derby was extended to 1.5 miles. The Indian Derby is inspired from the English racing calendar and is run over a distance of 2,400 metres or 12 furlongs for 4-year-old Class 1 colts and fillies. The Indian Derby has the highest stake money from all the races, including the Indian and regional classics across the country. The Royal Western India Turf Club, or the RWITC, hosts the Indian Derby every year at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse. Exhilaration, pace and unpredictability with absolute equestrian supremacy draw over 30,000 people to the Mahalakshmi Racecourse on the first Sunday of February, when the Indian Derby is bookmarked on a horse lover's calendar. The stands, as you can see, are packed to the rafters each year, and every road leads to the Indian Derby, which is an important date in the social calendar of most Mumbaikars. The Indian Derby had its first run in the year 1943. The inaugural running of the Derby was won by a filly called Princess Beautiful. In these 74 years, the Indian Derby has become the most celebrated horse racing event in India, and in the year 2011, the stakes reached as high as 7 crore Indian rupees. When a horse wins, its victory depends on his own work, his pedigree and all of the horse's connections that make the horse race ready for the big day. The most successful trainer of the Indian Derby is Rashid R. Bairamji, who has won the Indian Derby a record 11 times. He is the only professional in this category as a trainer to score a hat-trick twice. As far as the overall classic calendar of the country is concerned, Malesh Naredu is a record-breaking trainer. In a span of 1 year, he accomplished an unaccomplishable feat. As a trainer, he won the Colts Championship stake with his horse Be Safe, the Kingfisher Bangalore Derby with Be Safe again, the Nanoli Stud Pune Derby with Quasar, the Calcutta 2000 Guineas with Quasar again, the Ever-Ready Calcutta Derby Stakes with Quasar. And then came the Indian Classics. Malesh won the New Hope Indian 1000 Guineas with his filly Godspeed, the ABV Nucleus Indian 2000 Guineas with his colt Be Safe, the Hyderabad Derby with Quasar, the McDowell Signature Indian Derby with Be Safe. Then came the Indian Turf Invitation Cup, where Quasar reversed the length on Be Safe. Apart from this, he also won the Bangalore Saint Leisure in the same calendar, the Maharaja's Gold Cup, the Chief Justice's Cup, the President of India Gold Cup, and the Indian Saint Leisure Grade 1, along with the Hyderabad Saint Leisure. When it comes to jockeys, Pacey Shroff is the most celebrated jockey in Indian Derby. Pacey has won the Indian Derby record 8 times. He has won his derbies on Enterprising in the year 1984, Revelation in the year 1985, Exhilaration in 1989, Starfire Girl in 1990, Desert Warrior in 1991, Little Over in 1994, Storm Again in 2011, and Psychic Flame in the year 2004. Pacey is the only professional in his category as a jockey to have scored a hat-trick of wins in the Indian Derby. And as far as this year's Indian Derby is concerned, we will find out shortly who is in the reckoning to take the coveted trophy home. Well, thank you so much for staying with us right here on WION Sport on the special telecast of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1, the biggest race of the Indian horse racing calendar. Before we take you to all the sporting action and all the top contenders right here from Mumbai at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse from the Royal Western India Turf Club, we'd like to tell you that the Indian Derby is a very important date in the social calendar of most Mumbaikars, because apart from the equestrian action, there's a lot of fun and frolic that surrounds the Indian Derby. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of fashion. Let's take a look at all the entertainment, the surround and the lay of the land of the Indian Derby 2017. In horse racing, a derby anywhere in the world is touted to be a major social event. In the 18th century, men and women would show up in their finest apparels, and the tradition of marking respect by dressing to the T survives till date. Extravagant hats have become an integral part of the derby attire. Women dressed in hats and fascinators and fedoras alike with sharp outfits and glares, with the men in dapper blazers and tuxedos make a fashion statement. Equestrian supremacy sure meets haute couture at the derby.
Mumbai Derby, we love you.
Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby is an event of grace and glamour. As the evening sky spun over the racecourse, the rhythm of music and smell of food tantalized the attendees. Every win was celebrated by cheerleaders who were in rainbow attires, mesmerizing the crowds. Well, there you go. There was all the fun and frolic and the colour and all the entertainment right here from the Turf Club at the 2017 Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1. Now we come to the actual aspect of the sport of the Indian Derby, all the equestrian action that surrounds the Indian Derby this year. So who really are the top contenders for this year's running of the Derby? Well, on the top of my mind, I can talk to you about Sergeant at Arms, Temerity, Hall of Famer, and of course Germanicus were the top 4 favourites this year for the Indian Derby. But we've got 14 horses in the fray. Good time now for us to take a look at all the top contenders for the running of the Indian Derby. Horse racing is a sport of kings. This sport of kings is exciting as anything can happen at the finishing line. The best of horses have gone wrong, and equally the rank outsiders have gone on to win some of the biggest classics, showing some splendid turn of foot as they cross the wire to take their coveted trophies home. The 75th Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1 was an open race between 5 top contenders. Anything could have happened on the winning post. Anything can happen in horse racing. But as they also say, may the best horse always win. Let's take a quick glimpse at the top contenders for the running of the 75th Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1. The top contenders this year for the Derby included Hall of Famer, Sergeant at Arms, Temerity, Germanicus and Mrs. Patmore. And they say when there are 2 grey horses in the fray, one takes the trophy home. The Grey Filly Hall of Famer had already chalked more travelling miles than any other horse this winter season. She was backed by strong connections to her lead-up who made the filly race-ready. Owned by Tegbir Brar, who owns Dashmesh Stud, she was trained by veteran trainer Padmanabhan and ridden by champion jockey David Allen. Hall of Famer came to Mahalakshmi after winning the Calcutta Derby Grade 1 and clocking the fastest time of this year's 4 regional derbies. Let's take a look at the other top contender, Sergeant at Arms now. Sergeant at Arms, running in Khushru Dhanji Boys colours, has had just 1 bad outing. She had been unbeaten in 7 outings and had a total of 8 outings. Temerity is a filly with a lot of class. She had lost just 2 races in her career so far. Her debut race and the Gitanjali Indian 1000 Guineas Grade 1, where her starting stall troubles obviously played spoil sport with her. She won the Veelu Poonawalla Indian Oaks Grade 1 in great style. Then comes Germanicus, who was fancied quite a bit. His win in the Golconda Derby Grade 1 was a sparkling effort. Salazar was touted by the punters to be the joker in the pack. He won the South India Derby in the slowest time of the 4 regional derbies. The Indian Derby this year looked like a nail-biting competitive affair. Well, there you go. Those were the top contenders. 14 horses in the fray for the running of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1 from the Mahalakshmi Racecourse. Is it going to be Sergeant at Arms? Is it going to be Germanicus? Would it be Temerity or Hall of Famer? We're going to take a look at the actual race in a short while from now. Good time for us to take a short break right here on WION Sport. On the other side, the race follows. Thank you so much for staying with us right here on WION Sport on the special telecast of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1 from Mumbai at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse at the Royal Western India Turf Club. Now, before the break, you saw a look at all the top contenders, all 14 of them in the fray, and really who the horses' connections were. It's a good time now for us to go over to a few reactions from a lot of horses' connections as to who they think this year's winner is likely to be. Take a look. We've got 4 top contenders this year for the running of the Indian Derby. We have Temerity, we have Hall of Famer, we've got Germanicus, Sergeant at Arms, Mrs. Patmore. These are top 4 to 5 contenders that we have this year. Which one is your pick?
I think, speaking to a lady, I'll go for Mrs. Patmore.
Deepak, let's start off by talking about how every race is not a derby and what differentiates every other race from the Indian Derby.
Well, it's a D-Day of Indian racing. It's saying that on the first Sunday of Feb, all roads in Mumbai leads to Mahalakshmi Racecourse, which indeed is true. We have a capacity crowd coming here on this particular day. It's not that this is the biggest event of the year. It is the richest event of the year. You can see the capacity crowd here to about 25-30,000 people. For so many, it's like a fashion show.
And of course, it will be a dream of every breeder, owner, trainer, jockey, what have you, with the horses' connections to take home the coveted Indian Derby. Now, we've got top 5 contenders this year for the Indian Derby. We have Temerity, we've got Paddy's horse as well. We've got Hall of Famer, we've got Sergeant at Arms, and we've got Germanicus as well. Which is going to be your pick for the Derby? And of course, Mrs. Patmore, don't you forget that one. Is she going to be able to get the distance of 2,400 meters?
Well, she lost in the Indian Oaks to Temerity, and Temerity also running in the Indian Derby. And on papers, I would say the best horse here is Sergeant at Arms, followed by Hall of Famer, who won the Calcutta Derby very impressively.
Both have a rating of 100, right?
Yes. And Germanicus, you cannot forget that he won the Hyderabad Derby over the grueling distance of 2,400 meters very impressively.
With me at the paddock at the Royal Western India Turf Club at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse is the chairman of the Royal Western India Turf Club, Vivek Jain, who is a marketing maverick in all senses and is the biggest horse promoter in the country. Mr. Jain, talk to us a little about the 75th Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby.
Well, it's a great landmark for the RWITC. 75 is a big one for any institution and much more so for our sport.
So of the top 5 contenders at the top of my head, I could think of Mrs. Patmore, Sergeant at Arms, Germanicus, Temerity, and of course we've got Hall of Famer, which is the outstation contender as well. Which one would be your pick for the Indian Derby this year?
I would pick Sergeant at Arms on his sheer class, but if I have to pick an outsider, it would be Supreme General.
And on that note, let's go over to the commentator for the call for the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1.
Starter Shubakshing has got his finger on the button, gates open and away they go. You can hear the crowd roar. Quite a fair start this is, by all the one as being a little lethargic at the start is the Supreme General, and the field settled down to rest. There's a rush for the lead with Lucas and Colmo Donahue in the claret and gold is the leader from Silver Beauty in second spot. Hall of Famer now the Calcutta Derby winner going ahead up on the outside as a past the Hornby Villard corner. Silver Beauty has moved into second. Winter Renaissance in the red and white settled back in third as a past the 2,000 at quite a moderate pace. Another length and a half behind there is Vulcan. Another length and a 3/4 away is Sergeant at Arms. Up on the outside is Temerity, the winner of the Indian Oaks in the dark blue jacket as a past the 1800. Salazar and Trevor, the winner of the South India Derby, making a quick forward move. Another 2.5 length behind is Highland Breeze. After that is Mrs. Patmore, the winner of the Indian 1,000 guineas, making headway. 2 away is Bold March. Second last, the Supreme General. Last of all is the Germanicus, the winner of the Hyderabad Derby. As they run past the 1,400-meter marker in this richest race of the country. Hall of Famer is the leader, 3 lengths ahead of Silver Beauty, the Calcutta Oaks winner. Salazar and Trevor made a forward move is the son of Burden of Proof. In fourth there is Winter Renaissance. Length and a half to 2 lengths behind as they pass the 1,200-meter marker is Vulcan. After that is Sergeant at Arms, the son of Ikhtiar, is the winner of the Bangalore Derby, is making a forward move as they pass the 1,000-meter marker. Length and a half away, Bold March. After that is Mrs. Patmore. Highland Breeze, third last. Second last is Supreme General. Still a close last is Germanicus. With about half a mile remaining as they're running down to about the entrance of the home straight. Hall of Famer, the daughter of Win Legend, is a length and a half in front of Salazar. In third, there is Silver Beauty. After that is Winter Renaissance, Vulcan. Hugging the whale there, Sergeant and Arm is nicely poised in fifth. After that is Temerity as the head turns for home. Round the turn and into the straight. Hall of Famer comes in on first from Salazar. And Sergeant at Arms is the one absolutely cruising up on the outside. Temerity is making a forward move, then there's Silver Beauty. But Hall of Famer from Sergeant at Arms is galloping strongly up on the outside. Then there is Temerity, but it is going to be Sergeant at Arms from Hall of Famer battling back. Sergeant at Arms from Hall of Famer. It's Hall of Famer from Sergeant at Arms. Hall of Famer 3/4 of a length ahead. Hall of Famer wins the Indian Derby from Sergeant at Arms, Temerity. After that is Winter Renaissance. So what a win here for Hall of Famer, who ran second in the Indian 1000 guineas, went on to win the Calcutta Derby, bounced back to Bombay, won this race over a mile and a half, beating Sergeant at Arms, David Allen, and Hall of Famer powered his way back to beat Sergeant at Arms. Now over to the judge for the numbers.
Here with me is the winning jockey, 2 back-to-back Indian derbies in a row. It's no less of a feat when you have David Allen riding a horse. I mean, he won the derby beautifully last year on Desert God, and this year, of course, on Hall of Fame. How hopeful were you that you would have 2 derby wins back-to-back, David?
We fancied it quite a lot, to be honest. We thought, obviously, the main danger was Sergeant at Arms. No doubt, over a mile, he takes a lot of beating, but over this distance, after obviously beating him in the Mysore derby, we thought there was a slight chink in his armour when it comes to stamina. So we obviously just went out, got on with it, and tried to outstay him.
David, she's not really won from the front ever in the past. How hopeful were you when you took her right in the front and kept her in the lead till the end of the race?
Well, I didn't actually take it to the front, I just got left there. So then I just, suppose after that I had to change plan, and obviously that's what my job involves, is I have to change plan as the race develops, and I know that when she does get challenged, she'll dig in and find extra. So I wasn't too worried. She just... I think she eyed us a little bit when she's in front, that's all. But when the challenges came, she dug in and found more.
Did you see any kind of threat coming in from Germanicus or Sergeant Arms, Mrs. Patmore, Temerity, who were the top contenders in the fray this year for the Indian Derby?
Well, I actually thought my main challenger was Temerity, because obviously she'd went over the distance, and I think I thought she might have improved a bit more for it. But obviously I couldn't see a lot from where I was, apart from head first. And I felt the horses coming to me, but as soon as they did, she dug in, and I knew she'd hold on to the finish then.
Did you ever think that you're going to get 2 derbies back-to-back in a row?
Definitely not. But it so happened we came up with 2 good fillies. So we had some hope. But, not this way. I didn't think she'll win that easily.
In the last 5 years, we have won 3 derbies, which itself is a very rare feat. And David has been associated with 2 of them. And he has won 1 more derby for Kuji Katrak. So he has also won 3 derbies, which is very rare, because the only other foreign jockey who has won 3 derbies, I think, is Mick Kinnan, who is in different class as a jockey. And he took 20 years to win the 3rd one. This fellow has won in 3 years.
I was quite confident, but I've been away. I missed all the action leading up.
And Tegbir, what happened before the race? Did you see any kind of threat coming in from Germanicus, Sergeant at Arms, Mrs. Patmore? You had Temerity as well. Quite an open field to say.
Okay, let's put it this way. We were quietly confident, but it's the Indian Derby, and Sergeant at Arms is a hell of a horse. I saw no reason why this horse shouldn't get a mile and a half. He's had a beautiful race right through, in the sense that he's settled really well today. But that's it. I mean, when you got to come to the last 100 meters of a race, that's what separates the winner from another top horse.
We just got done, and you had the winner in Hall of Famer, who is a filly with a lot of class, owned by Tegbir Brar, trained by Padmanabhan, and of course she had to face a very tough fight from Temerity in the fray, Germanicus in the fray. You had Sergeant at Arms as well in the fray, and Mrs. Patmore as well. I've got with me a veteran commentator, Mahendra Malia, who will be analysing the race for us. Mahendra, what really went right for the filly today?
Everything went right for her. She was in fine fettle. She looked good in the paddock. And you must give it to Padmanabhan. He travels his horses extremely well. He's done that before. Last year also he had Desert God travelling all over the place and coming to Bombay and still winning the way he did. This time also Hall of Famer settled beautifully well, and when the pace was not suiting to her liking, it was a little slow in the beginning. She took off and took the lead. That was a very brave move from David Allen. and I think that served them very well in the entire race. You also see that David Allen also saved a bit past the halfway stage. He was holding her back, giving her sort of a breather, not exactly pulling her off, but then he gave her that rest she needed, and when Sergeant at Arms came, it looked like Sergeant at Arms might go past, but Hall of Famer had enough legs, and she just drew away in the last part.
You know what is interesting to note for all our viewers is that Desert God, who won the Kingfisher Indian Derby last year, was partnered by David Allen and trained by Padmanabhan again. And this year again, Hall of Famer has been partnered by David Allen in the saddle and won by Padmanabhan as a trainer as well. Who would have imagined, Mahendra, that Paddy would get 2 Derby wins, and of course David would get 2 Derby wins back to back in a row?
Well, that's a rare feat, and I'm not surprised. Paddy has been a trainer of quality for a long time now. He's very experienced, and like I told you, he knows his horses well, doesn't push them in work, keeps them fresh all the time. And the best part is he travels them beautifully. They don't feel any fatigue whatsoever. And when they come to a new place, they acclimatize very early, and they're very fit for the for the battle ahead.
There you go, all happy faces as usual out there. The winners of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1, and the winning connections are always very happy, winning the biggest race of the Indian horse racing calendar and the largest purse ever in a tune of couple of crores that the winners take home each year at the Indian Derby. Thank you so much for tuning into our special telecast on WION Sports. This is Chaiti Narula signing off.